Hello friends and welcome back to a new episode of The Road to Rank 1. Today we're starting off with a Protoss versus Terran, fighting none other than Battlebee, a 6.3k-ish Terran player, I think currently floating around rank 17, 18, 20, something along those lines. A difficult opponent, someone that whose build orders I definitely respect. I respect the unit movement very much as well. This is the thing about players that aren't quite top level, obviously including myself, is that we often have a certain specialty. You know, if you look at Clem, he's the full package. You know, he's got the micro, he's got the build, he's got everything. And then certain players that go like 5, 6, 700 MMR below that, they have a little bit of that, you know. So Battlebee, for example, I think really understands unit movement very well. Has good early game builds as well, which I often appreciate. Sometimes a bit over aggressive, but perhaps lacks a bit in the general control and the later game unit compositions or how to fight with those exact compositions. But I feel like as long as he's on Medevac, Marauder, Bio Mine, he's actually extremely strong and isn't much worse than some of the top Terrans. Now, I myself have been playing a bunch of different builds in this matchup. One of my favorite ones as of late has just been going for Blink into Robo and then playing kind of a passive Colossus type of style. And that is also what I'm trying to play here. So I try to block my opponent's natural. I see that he builds it off position. I'm not super happy with that because I would have liked to block that for at least a little bit more. That command center started at 137. Yes, 1 minute and 37 seconds into the game. That is pretty fast. It means he had good SCV micro. And it also means that this can't really be a gas-first opener. Because in that case, you can't have such a fast command center. Because you get a little bit more gas, a little bit less minerals. Often with a gas first, the CC is going to go down at like 141, 142. So I also saw a second SCV being pulled. So I expect this to be a Reaper opener. If the second SCV doesn't get pulled down, most of the time it's a Marine opener. If the SCV does get pulled down, it's often Reaper. The Marine pops out much faster, so they don't need that second SCV to have their CC continue building. That's basically the main theory. Of course, Terran can play tricks on you, but most of the time I'm expecting a Reaper. It doesn't show up, and as you can see in my face, I'm a little bit confused. I don't quite understand why there's no Reaper here quite yet. But what we are going to do is send out this Adept right now. And because there's no Reaper here anyway, I'm going to send out my second Adept as well. It is a little bit risky because a late Reaper can always show up, but so far that's not the case. And as I say that, of course, I meet the Reaper in the middle of the map. It's a late timing. I don't see a Marine, so I am honestly somewhat confused. I get a kill there on the SCV as well, which doesn't really... You know, I'm just not sure what's going on here, to be honest. Because this is a very late Reaper. So right now what I'm thinking is that it's going to be like Reaper into Reactor of some sort as I end up clearing his Reaper. Because nothing else really makes sense. He also has a Cyclone. And I'm visibly confused here. And I think it would be good to quickly jump into the replay to explain that confusion. So in order to truly understand the absolute genius of this move, we first need to understand what Protoss is actually looking for when they scout. So I mentioned the command center timing earlier. That is usually a pretty big tell. If this command center goes down at, let's say, 141, 142, and there's a delayed Reaper, I can say, hey, this is just a gas-first opener, and I'm expecting a pretty quick factory. But this is a really fast command center, and he made a point of showing me that this was a fast command center. So he's feeding me information here, and I'm gobbling up basically the fake info that he's giving me. Because behind this, he's skipping his Reaper, getting a factory, and a refinery. Now, this is not something that ever really happens. We see this type of move with, for example, a Marine, where you open up with a Marine, then a fast factory. That is a pretty normal thing to have. And if that was the case here, this wouldn't be revolutionary. Oh, he had a slightly fast CC, but that is okay. That is normal with that build. That isn't crazy. That's just a standard barracks into gas timing. However, then he still builds the late Reaper. And this is a trick that can pay off really in two ways. And the first way is that basically what happened here in this game is that I scout out with my first Adept. I'm like, hey, I don't see a Reaper. I probably should go across the map, figure out what's going on. Maybe I can deal some damage. And then my second Adept finishes up. I'm like, hey, there's no Reaper here. I can shade it out. If this Adept shades towards the bottom side here. This Reaper gets to go in, gets to maybe get 1 or 2 probe kills, and gets a guaranteed scout on what tech I have. So that is the first little advantage that my opponent can get in this game. It is a minor thing, but it is still very cool. The second thing here is that if I see this Reaper and I know that this is barracks into gas, that means that the cyclone timing that is currently being achieved is completely... It doesn't compute at all. This has never happened before. Reaper into factory, this cyclone is going to be delayed by 18 seconds. However, this cyclone isn't delayed by 18 seconds because instead the Reaper was delayed by maybe 20, 25 seconds. So he's completely messing with my expectations. He honestly got extremely unlucky in this particular game. Like extremely unlucky because this Reaper ends up getting spotted because my Adept moves the incorrect direction here, and B, because I was paying attention to my Adept. So what is supposed to happen with this build is that the Reaper gets in, gets a scout, kills 2 workers, and then this Cyclone, because I'm not expecting the timing of this Cyclone at all, this is way too early for a Cyclone, 308, not possible with barracks into gas, he gets this Adept as well, and then gets a pretty major advantage in the early game already. I really, really like this build. The fact it didn't work out had more to do with my incompetence rather than his build or his opener not being smart. This is an extremely cool trick to throw in, but let's get back to the game. Alright, so I managed to keep everything alive. I kill his Reapers, and yeah, it's actually pretty okay for me. Like, I'm happy with my start. I killed one of his SCVs, I killed his Reaper, and the Cyclone didn't get a kill. Now that I've scouted my opponent's Cyclone, I'm also very aware of the fact that he has a quick factory. I don't quite understand what has happened or how he managed to achieve this quick factory. I think during the game I was thinking it must have been some gas first variation. But then, yeah, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So I was still a little confused during all of this. And in a way, it kind of messed with my head as to what to do. I was like, wait, should I get a battery now? Should I be getting units in the main? Can I move out on the map? I wasn't entirely sure, so I decided to play it quite safe, get a fairly high Stalker count before wanting to expand. Just adding more pylons. You see I'm adding a backup pylon here for that robotics facility, just to make sure that if he attacks me with some type of Cyclone tank push that I'm okay. I really was strongly debating trying to get some type of battery in my natural, but decided against it. Here I want to chase, but I'm also afraid of a medevac to the main base with like Marines or even a delayed mine drop, which is an odd play, but a possible one. And indeed it's going to be a mine drop. We see a double mine drop here, as he's going to get a single probe kill. I managed to damage that medevac at least a little bit and start moving out. I do now realize that my money is getting pretty high. I don't have a third base yet. I hadn't started my robo bay yet either. So this is actually kind of frustrating. My robo bay is about 20-25 seconds late. Usually the latest timing I want to have a robo bay that I say is like 4:35. Here I started it at 4:55 or so. So it's not a great timing. I have a late third, but my worker count is very good because I didn't lose very many. I used a lot of chrono boost on my Nexi as well. My plan was never to be aggressive. My plan was to not take any damage. And so far, that plan has been pretty much working out as I add a gateway and a forge. I should have probably started my charge a bit earlier as well. I had the cash available for it. I just didn't start it, which is definitely a mistake. I'm just kind of looking to see if I can figure out what he's doing. I'm also now realizing that I'm walking into a major supply block. So I need to cancel workers here to start my Colossus. That means I have no worker production, and that's going to cut significantly into my worker count and thus my income overall. It's really bad to cut worker production if you still want to be building them, because every worker doesn't just delay this worker, but it also delays the next one. So it's not like a crazy snowball effect, but it is a pretty significant snowball effect, as long as you're not fully saturated at least. Now, luckily my worker count is already fairly high, so it's not the end of the world. I see his medevac move away, so I'm just resetting up my observers. I scout his drop that he was moving towards the right side, and I think that I am defensively set up well enough that I don't really have to worry about him attacking my natural or something and that I can't hold. I think I'm just honestly fine. I do probably want to add a battery or two, as I decide to move towards the left side here with my Stalkers. I'm afraid of being captured by the double medevac drop that was heading out, basically. So Keeping my 5 Stalkers here on the left side. I have 1 battery at basically every single base being set up. I have good vision with observers as well. Money is raising. It's going up a little bit. So I decided to add some gateways. This is very standard. Usually the way you play is that you start floating a bit of cash, then you get the gateways after you're fully saturated on 3 bases. It goes for a triple drop into my main. I managed to deal with this fairly well, I want to say. Not a whole lot of damage. At the same time, I'm rallying my next Colossus over towards my 3rd base because I'm aware of what he could possibly be doing there. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm alive. I also realized I didn't quite have a super battery yet the moment he ran in, but now I do. So I'm actually quite happy with all of this. And yeah, my position feels very comfortable. I'm a bit upset that I didn't instantly start a 4th base yet. I decided to add more gateways first. I'm going to just snipe both of these medevacs. It's going to cost me a couple of Stalkers, but taking out medevacs is really useful because one of the things that is annoying if it gets delayed for Terran is if Viking production gets delayed. So if you lose 3 medevacs early on in the game, like you just did, it probably is going to delay Viking production, or it means he can't be out on the map, because you can't be out on the map without medevacs. It is simply not possible. So I'm either saying, hey, I'm getting map control, or you don't have anything to deal with my Colossus. And honestly, with either option, I'm pretty okay. So I just end up clearing the mines on the map as well. I have pretty much full control, like full map control. Would love to see a second forge being added right now. I think that would be such a good play. As I'm getting my 4th base, I pretty much am safe. This move that I'm about to make here is phenomenal. I'd like everyone to pay close attention. If you're not a Grandmaster right now, but you're dreaming of becoming one, the play that I'm about to make, you know, this is going to allow you to do it. So I send the Stalker over to blink it away. So that the mine shoots at it, but I forget that I had to blink it away. So I just run the Stalker straight to its death. Into a mine. I'm very happy that he didn't have an armory done yet. Otherwise, he wouldn't even have been capable of clearing the mine, which probably would have made me tilt at least a little bit. I want to go for a bit of an Archon push because I feel extremely comfortable in this game right now, and I don't actually think he has enough units whatsoever. I did miss a stroke of scouting, so we're accidentally moving into a base trade right now, but because his Viking count and his medevac count are very low, base trades are actually extremely good for me because he can't deal with my Colossus properly, and also if he's continuously stimming on the other side, his army is going to be fairly damaged already by the time we start fighting. On top of that, I'm also up a base, and my base trade started slightly faster, so I clear a lot of SCVs there. I think, end up losing a Nexus. No, I don't even lose the Nexus. And then I come in with a flank over here. 150 supply. He probably has about like 120 supply or so. And yeah, we just straight up win the game. I'm very happy with it. Big win for me, as every single win is a big win. And let's take a look at what my rank is. Look at that. Rank 9, 20 points in the pocket. 6.4k MMR. Beautiful stuff. Alrighty. Up next we have our game versus KCC Pilgrim, who I hadn't really ever heard of, and I still, well, I mean, I've heard of heard of the dude now, but I met him once on the ladder, so that's really all my experience. We're starting with a beautiful mover. Look at this, the classic double scout going completely wrong. So might as well not have done it. Still probably gonna be in time with the blocking because I built a forward pylon. Not entirely what I wanted, but life is going to just be fine, I hope. As yeah, I'm just gonna my plan here is to go for a standard type of Oracle 3-base build and kind of take it from there. The reason why I really like these Oracle 3-base builds is also fairly simple. I think that currently Stargate is just the best. There's a big variety of things you can do with the Stargate. You don't have to, but you really have a lot of opportunities of dealing damage, either with Oracles or with Adepts. You can easily move into Blink Stalkers afterwards as well. It just feels extremely comfortable for me to play. So yeah, we're just, the main plan here is to just kind of stick with a low gateway count, high Stalker count, a couple of Adepts early on, and then taking it from there. My opponent, he's opening up with a pool first. I realized that. So I'm just checking the amount of larva that he's saving. I saw he didn't save too many, so I feel somewhat comfortable building a Nexus before core here, as he was adding in more and more drones. So maximum amount of links he can build right now is 4, or 2 sets of links. I'm just going to wall this part off. I don't need a Zealot either. I need to make sure to keep my probe alive. That is actually very important. It's actually very, very important that I keep my probe alive. Here I think I'm considering building a pile on the low ground, then I decide not to do it. I'm like, nah, actually it's not necessary. So the reason why I want to keep my probe alive is for two things. One, I want to see where his lings are moving, and two, I want to distract his lings. So if all lings straight up rush across the map, that can be a bit annoying, especially with how terrible my wall is at home. But if I can distract two lings and they kind of have to chase me, because if they don't chase me, I get a free scout of their main base, and the pool first doesn't make sense. Pool first is a pretty decent investment out of Zerg, and they want to be capable of hiding what they're doing. If I get the full information, I'm just ahead. If I don't get the full information, there are chances that I die, or there are chances that I overreact. Over-exaggerate my response a little bit, and that also isn't great. So my probe gets to stay alive. I had a probe patrolling here in case I needed a full wall. I think I'm going to keep it patrolling here for a little bit longer, because I definitely want to shade out this adept, see if I can get a bit of info, start a warp gate as well, and just for safety's sake, I added a battery. I think this is not a bad move against pool first. It is often not completely necessary, especially if you're going to get a full-on scout, which is what I'm about to get. I see a creep tumor, which is a big tell that this is not going to be some type of ling flood or not even a roach all-in. I see a bunch of drones, and I see nothing really being produced there. So I feel very comfortable in me not being all-in. In retrospect, I probably could have cancelled the battery in the natural. I don't think that would have been a mistake, as I end up killing, I think, one ling here. Yeah, I end up killing one ling here. But I don't lose my adept, so that's not even a trait. That's just a free kill. And when it comes to free kills, I'm always happy. I'm also happy with where I position this second pylon, just giving a bit of extra power to these structures in front, in case there's going to be some type of late baneling bust. Like, it's always nice to have some of that stuff as a backup. Get another oracle in as well. Gonna straight up send it across the map. Then I want to eventually expand in towards a third base. I didn't actually build a third adept. I think I regret that now, so I do start it. It's a bit of a different build, and I don't play against a whole lot of pool first, but I'm happy with how I responded generally here. I think this was not a bad response at all. I'm not expecting to be capable of dealing any damage, so any drone that I can get, I'm going to be pretty happy with. I see an extremely fast Evo chamber as well, which I have no real thoughts on. Usually extremely fast Evo chambers indicate a timing. Because you don't need the +1 this quick if all you want to get the +1 for is to get a quick +2. It's not like you can probably wait with 30 seconds with that Evo chamber and you have a bit more money in the bank, which can allow you to build more drones, and you have a drone that's still mining for 30 extra seconds, which is a bit more money. So yeah, I'm just dealing a lot of damage here with my first oracle. This feels good. Also getting a Twilight and a Forge. This is all a bit later than I'm used to, so not the happiest man in the world, but I think currently I'm happy enough that I don't feel bad about any of this. I really don't. Just gonna be moving around a tiny tad. Get a bunch of kills here on these lings. Get a bunch of kills here on these drones. I wonder if actually just killing those two lings would have been a better move now that I see this. I think it might have been, but then again, it would have been worse. Imagine 4 more lings end up popping while I'm doing this. Then I rather would have killed those 3 extra drones. The only reason you want to kill the lings is if you believe it leads you to killing more drones. Because killing drones is what's important in Protoss versus Zerg. Killing lings is not that important. Forcing lings, however, could be big as well. So, it's always a trade-off there. Always a trade-off. As the triple oracles are trying to fly in, can't really do any damage here. He already has a spore. He has spores in every base. He has queens in every base. He's just standing there very defensively. Very often if someone is standing this defensively, it's smart to start moving out with adepts. Adepts force the queens forward, or your opponent will have to lose their creep. So then they need to make a decision. It's like, hey, am I going to expose my mineral lines and perhaps even expose my queens against like a triple oracle setup? Or am I just going to let him take all of my creep? And losing all of your creep against a player of my caliber, well, actually, that's completely fine. But it's still not... it's not entirely what you want. So I'm adding in a couple of stalkers here. Still have these adepts on the map as well. I'm gonna do what we call a rotation of the units. And as I do my rotation of the units, take a fort base, see a bunch of banelings out. And I'm like, well, banelings? That doesn't seem like a macro game to me. So I start fighting with my oracles. You know what I would have liked if I had done at this point? Just adding 2 gateways and a 4th oracle. I think if you're being... this is obviously quite all-in coming out of my opponent. I think I should have probably taken 6 gases, 2 more gateways, Templar archives, and just said, hey, I'm just going to take it a little slower. Instead what I do, I start semi-long distance mining, and then I'm like, no, wait, that's stupid. So then I still take my base, I feel like this was actually pretty... I think this is a bad response. In retrospect, once again, this is not the correct thing. I should have actually taken more gases. I wanted to very badly stick to my initial plan, but here a different plan would have been much, much better. Because he's investing a lot in links. He's on low gas. It's going to be a long time until he's going to be building any roaches or any hydras. Archons here would have been a serious game changer. Higher gas counts for me quick would have been a serious game changer. I'm not doing any of that. I'm not even really producing units at this point. I'm trying to move out. I also haven't scouted properly what his follow-up is, and I'm figuring it out right now. It's like, oh, his follow-up is just more of the same, which is not actually that great for me because I'm not super prepared. I don't have those Archons. I don't have a high Zealot count. Need to blink my Stalkers away. You have some Zealots, some Banelings moving in. I'm paying attention. Oh my god, of course I am. As these Banelings move in onto the minimap. Get another Stalker in position there as well, so I don't end up taking a whole lot of damage. I see no workers at all on this fort base. Once again, I think taking gases here would have been such a good play, which I'm not really doing. Just adding in more and more Stalkers, which is the exact opposite what I would like to be doing right now. It's always nice that when you're watching back your own games like this, sometimes in the replay, you don't even quite... If you watch right after, I'm often more looking for like mechanical errors and little mistakes, but like the big lines of the game, when you're watching yourself first person, I prefer that. Like it's much easier to spot mistakes, and definitely some big mistakes here. That's oh my god, he decides to move in again. I'm slightly out of position, well slightly, completely out of position with all my Stalkers. Oracles aren't there either. My probes are actually taking a freaking beating here, and I'm hoping that he doesn't have too many units here. So I'm just gonna lose all my workers for free. I didn't even properly pull them back. I probably could have warped in some Zealots and then pulled my workers through them. At the same time, I am dealing at least a little bit of damage here with my Stalkers. Not a huge amount, but at least a little bit. Actually, a pretty decent amount, not gonna lie. Still have 120 supply as well, but what basically was an unlosable game about a minute ago, now all of a sudden is kind of scary in a way. It's like, oh, he has a lot of links, doesn't he? He really does have a lot of links, and I don't have that many units to deal with those links. I'm actually gonna lose my entire force out on the map. I do start my Archons, which is great, because Archons are insane against links. He doesn't have a whole lot of creep. I also just now realized that I had a Zealot run-by still set up. That Zealot run-by has two purposes. One, it allows me to scout how many drones he has here, which is, the answer is not a whole lot. I'm still up in workers, that makes me happy. And two, it potentially allows me to kill some stuff, which that second part isn't entirely true. I'm going to go for a full wall over here with 4 gateways. He's playing a very heavy link style. I think it's a good call. And I'm adding in a couple more Archons as well right now. As well as adding another cannon. I think getting a Prism at this point would have been sick. Just if I had a Prism with this push, I think I could have had a lot of potential. Because he has low gas count. There's maybe going to be like 5-6 roaches. That's about it. I don't think he's going to have anything else. Yeah, for now it seems to just be pure Ling Bane. A couple of Hydras actually in there. Forgot about that. So I'm just trying to take out as many Hydras as I can. It's not going too swimmingly for me. At the same time, I am clearing a lot of drones. I think every single drone there went down. As this Archon almost dies, but I decide to micro it back. My Zealots attack, and at this point I'm in a position where I'm very far ahead and I can probably just straight up kill my opponent. I wonder if the best thing to do here is just to do a run-by into the third while continuing to kill the fourth base. He goes in for a little run-by in towards my fourth base. Doesn't get too many kills, or doesn't even really get any kills. The sad thing is here that I don't really have a Prism. If I had a Prism, I could instantly reinforce into this battle and probably be fine. But it's not at all what I'm doing. So I'm just going to kill this base. Send a little run-by into his third. So a little bit, I'm doing a bit later what I wanted to do before. I lose these Zealots. And did I start my storm already? I hope I did. I think I did. I think I just started my storm. That would be good. I also put a couple of Zealots here in this Prism, as I see a lack of a 5th base. So right now I'm just up a base. All I need to do is sit back on 4 bases with 8 gas. My opponent has less gases. My opponent has less mineral mining. And my opponent probably has worse upgrades as well. On top of that, also worse army composition. So I'm just ahead in every possible way. The only thing I'm afraid of is like some type of weird lurker attack. But I don't really believe he has the money currently to get out like 12 lurkers with seismic spine. So I'm not super worried. In order to stop that though, I like to be on the map. So I see where he's at, and I have 2 armies on the map. the moment he tries attacking me on one side, I start attacking him, and I'm always going to win a base trade. Lurkers are not very good in base trades. People think that they're good in base trades, but Protoss is much better in base trades. The problem with Lurkers is you have to burrow, unburrow, burrow, unburrow, and it's very, very frustrating. Here I see that there's a base on the far right side. I could have sent my Prism there, but instead what I decided to do is send the Prism in towards the main base. And 2 robotics facilities as well. So Prism closer towards the main base, and I take out this this little thing with my main army, while still also having Zealots on the left side, don't forget. Not a huge fan here of the Templar Archives warp in, or the Templar Archives, of the extra Templar warp in to get an Archon. I think it's a bit silly, actually. I see that there's still no fort base over here, so I'm taking a 5th. I don't actually think this is necessary. I probably could have just built more cannons, as well as a fleet beacon. And then make sure that I properly defend. And then the moment you get carriers out against someone that's on 3 bases and they're building Hydra Lurker, you pretty much just win the game. So that probably would have been almost a safer play here to go for. It's not what I went for. I just kind of continue playing this army comp. And I have a Zealot run by going in right now. That might be a bit too much of a commitment almost, as I'm starting to build more and more Immortals. But at the same time, the game is just pretty much over. GG gets called. I win this game, and that, my dear friends, is going to be it for me today. So we end with 6,407 MMR. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'll see all of you next time. Bye-bye.